Welcome, everybody, to Cinema Royale. I am Travis Thompson of PunchDrunkCritics.com, and we're back. I haven't been here in a couple of weeks. I've been really busy, but I had to come back for Top Gun Maverick, which is a movie that I feel like we've been waiting an eternity for, so I had to come back and do this one. And it comes out this week, so I had to get this one in. And the only person I wanted to talk to about Top Gun Maverick was my friend, Karen Peterson, Tom Cruise super fan. I had to have you in here for this. Karen, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. I got a sound of an ice cream truck playing behind me
I
or
can
something, but
hear it. It kind of makes
yeah,
me
you
want
can
ice
hear it
cream.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's annoying, but other than that, I'm great. Uh, and I just it's been an interesting day. I just did some interviews for Top Gun Maverick just a little while ago, which was really fun. And I'm excited to talk about this movie. And I'm excited to talk about it with you in particular because I know how big of a fan you are of Tom Cruise. So let's talk about it without giving away too much about the movie itself. Let me hear your overall thoughts on Top Gun Maverick.
I freaking loved it. It's amazing. I mean, how specific do you want me to be right now? I will say, so it's funny because, like you said, we've been waiting for this movie a really long time. I mean, Tony Scott was trying to get it made for years,
What
and
year did
just
he die? What year was that?
he died in 2012. It's been 10
Yeah,
years. Hmm.
Jesus Christ, that's a long time.
And yeah, and he'd been trying to get him. And it was like his death is where Tom finally was just like, we're gonna do this for Tony. We're going to get this movie made.
Yeah,
And they did. And now it's in theaters. My relationship to Top Gun and Tom Cruise, my fandom for him, started in 1986. That summer, my dad, every year he would take me and my brother to the air show.
yeah.
um, he insists that it was this one particular air show that doesn't happen until October, and it wasn't until October that year. And I know we did not see it in October. I know we saw the movie in the summer, like in July.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what air show we were at, but I do remember going to the air show and then going to see Top Gun afterwards. And I was only 9. I did not know what I was experiencing,
Yeah.
but I definitely knew that that guy on screen was amazing. And I honestly have been a fan since I was 9 years old watching Top Gun. So
That's
for
awesome.
me to get to sit and experience this movie, I mean, we were actually sitting together in Hall H of Comic-Con in 2019 when he showed up. The only time I've ever been in the same place with him at the same time. But when he
You weren't at Cannes just now for the premiere? You weren't there?
thanks for rubbing salt in that
I'm
wound.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
It's
sorry.
okay. I'm over it. I'm sort of. I'll pretend I'm over it. Anyway, but no, I remember getting to see the first trailer, and then of course Warner Brothers screwed over Paramount by dropping the Cats trailer a couple hours later, and then that was all anybody could talk about.
Yeah.
But just hearing that the start of the song and then seeing just that jet flying over these mountains, and we didn't know anything about the story, but just getting to see those first glimpses, I had always been like, I'd love to see more, but I didn't really necessarily care. From the moment I saw that first trailer, I've been really excited about this movie. This is a really long way to get to what you originally asked me, was how I like this movie.
I think we know now.
But yeah, I just so I've been very much excited, like really, really looking forward to it sincerely and genuinely since 2019. And now that it's finally here, it didn't just live up to my expectations, it actually surpassed them. This is it's a better movie than I even dared hope it would be.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And look, I don't have the same background for this movie that you do. It wasn't something that really clicked with me as a kid. I was a young black kid in a poor area. I didn't give a shit about Tom Cruise or Tom Gunn. I just
Fair.
didn't. I just didn't. And it wasn't until I got older that I realized how much love people had for it. But what was interesting to me about watching Top Gun Maverick, which finds Maverick training a team of new hotshot pilots including Rooster, the son of his former friend and wingman Goose. Um, the thing that I thought about the most while watching it was this is this is like 80s Tom Cruise. This is like he's gone, like we've talked about it before, like he's like the last true movie star. And it's like this movie is like the prime example of it, because it's like, yeah, most people who are like younger than us, all they know is Tom Cruise throwing himself off of tall things and and stuff like that. And it's because that's what he's been doing for years, is throwing
It's
himself off of
true.
things, you know. But Top Gun, when you watch that 80s movie, that's him as superstar romantic lead. That's him. That's the guy, and he's bringing that back for this role. And you forget how good he is at just playing that type of character when he gets the chance to play it. They don't make movies like this anymore, so that kind of role doesn't come around much anymore. But when he showed in this that he still got it, man. Like some of those scenes he has with Jennifer Connelly are really great. Like
Yeah.
they're almost as good as the stuff he does when he's in the cockpit, in the cockseat, in the cockpit.
Yeah.
I mean, they're as good as that, and he's just that guy who can do it all, and there aren't that many actors who can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I feel like a big part of the reason that this works is because Kaczynski really understands who Maverick is as a character. This isn't just about letting Tom Cruise show off and show his skills, which he has. And it's so funny. Every time there's a new Tom Cruise movie, people suddenly remember again that he can act and that he's a great performer. And it's like they forget in between movies. Because they like all people want to focus on is some of the crazy stuff that had happened in his life off screen, and that's some of that is going back more than a decade. And it's like, at what point are we just going to let that go and just embrace who he is on screen and just let that be something that we get excited about and celebrate? And
In the public eye for 40 years, there's going to be
yeah,
something in his background. Like there's going to be a stretch where like everything wasn't going right. And he had that
yeah.
stretch, and now he's been past it for like 10, 20 years.
Yeah, he basically just, once his last marriage fell apart, he just kind of retreated, publicly retreated and just went back into making movies, which is what he's always been very, very good at.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think specifically with Top Gun Maverick, the reason this is not just a fun movie, but is actually something really meaningful and more nuanced and deeper is because there is this understanding that, a lot of people have tried to chalk Top Gun, the original, up to just being this, 1980s, US government propaganda piece about a bunch of just, hotshot pilots. And I'm not saying that it's not that, because it definitely is. But I think that there's more depth to the original movie than a lot of people want to give it credit for. And I think those are some of the elements that really get touched on in this, that make it such an effective movie. There are some really, truly, honestly, genuine emotional moments in here that I wasn't even expecting. And there were a couple of times I was almost tearing up because I would have full on cried at one point, except for I was sitting next to two industry guys I didn't know and I didn't want to embarrass myself. So I was like, okay, Karen, keep it in, hold it together. So when I see it again this week with my friends, I'm gonna just let it out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this again too. But no, I feel you. Then this is not just seat of your pants, flying dogfight stuff. Although there is that, and
And
that
it's
stuff
amazing when they
is
do it.
incredible. And I'm like you. I don't know how they shot some of this stuff. I mean, we do know technically how they shot some of this stuff, but and still, you're kind of like, I don't know how they pulled that off. Like that, just like these. And look, we haven't had like flying movies like this in so long that it's maybe we forget them, but it took my breath away watching some of these scenes, and that's not something I can say about a lot of action movies nowadays.
Nice throwback to 1986 with
I
Take
know.
My Breath Away, the hit song by Berlin.
Mhm. That was intentional.
um, but yeah, no, it's like, I mean, that was one of the things that was so fun in the original movie was seeing the way that they did some of these dogfights. And that is all I get I try not to use this word too much, so when I actually use it, I really, really mean it, but they elevate the flight sequences
Mhm.
just better. This has some of the best flying I've seen in any movie ever.
It's a little bit better
And
than that movie Stealth. You remember that movie Stealth? It's
I
slightly
do
better
remember Stealth, yeah.
than
Yeah, marginally improved on
a
that.
tiny bit.
But no, just to your point, like some of it, you watch it and you're just like, how were they able to do that? How did nobody die making this movie? Because some of this should not have been possible.
You know how fun this movie is going to be to watch in seats with like just the booming bass and like, or like some
Yep.
of those like rumble seats. We got some of those around here too. Like
Yeah.
those would be super fun to watch this in.
So true. Well, this weekend when I go, I have tickets for Friday night to see it with friends. I don't know when people are actually watching this video, but um I my second viewing is going to be at an AMC in a Prime theater, which does that. Like it doesn't have the rumble seats, it's not the D box,
Yeah.
but you feel all the sound. As Nicole Kidman says, sound that you can feel. Um
let's talk about some of the relationships in this movie because
yeah.
Maverick, he's built a lot of relationships over the years, and this movie really focuses on there are a couple, but the one between him and Bradley or Rooster, played by Miles Teller, is so central to this movie. Um, it is a relationship that I think we always kind of were like they're probably going to be estranged in some way because of Goose's death, or you expect resentment. But it's really not as simple as all that, is it?
It's really not, and that's one of the things that I think makes this movie so great, is it would have been very easy for it to and we would have just accepted if he was just bitter, like, "Oh, that's the guy who was responsible for my father's death when I was a little kid." Like, we wouldn't even have questioned that.
Yeah.
But instead, they went deeper, and it's something that when you find out the full story and you really understand what went on between the two of them and what happened, it's actually kind of heartbreaking, and you understand where both of them are coming from.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what makes this such an exceptional film. It's not just about great action, but it really gets into the heart of real people and treats them like real humans with real emotions.
Yeah, I came away from this looking at Maverick a little bit differently than I had in the first movie. He's in this film, he's such more than just like a team leader or something like that. And more than just like the protector of his wingman. He's almost like the protector of everybody in his life. Like his circle doesn't seem like it's that big,
Yeah.
and he seems like he's somebody who's always looking out for them no matter what. We kind of see a little bit more of that when he reunites with Iceman for a little while, and one of those scenes that if somebody's going to cry, they're probably going to cry there. Uh, Especially if you know Val Kilmer's real life story, you can't even
Definitely.
think about it.
Yeah.
Watching those scenes, that scene was fantastic too.
Yeah. But
Uh,
that's the thing though, like what you're saying just now. The thing about Maverick, and I think this is something that gets kind of overlooked or ignored about the character in the original movie. And I mean, he's very much a guy who does his own thing. He was known originally as being the guy who buzzed the tower,
his
and
call sign is
caused a
Maverick
lot.
for a reason.
Exactly. But it's because he just does, he's kind of a rebel. He takes things to the extreme. He does a lot of things that he's not supposed to, but that doesn't mean that he is a loner. He's definitely not. And it doesn't mean that he doesn't care about people. I mean, one of the opening scene
Yeah.
of Top Gun in 1986, the reason that happens is because he does care so much about his team.
And this movie starts off with the similar thing that kind of mirrors that.
Yeah,
He's a maverick, but he's usually a maverick in defense of others. He's not usually a
exactly.
maverick just for the sake of being a maverick.
Right.
He's not reckless when somebody else's life is on when someone else.
That's it. Yeah. He is a little reckless, but not at the potential expense of someone else's health or safety.
He'll be reckless to put himself on the line, but not
Right.
but not to put somebody else on the line. Not that, which is one of those things that that you kind of felt was hung on the character Hangman, played by Glenn Powell.
Mhm.
Because his called it because he'll hang you out to dry, which is like the polar opposite of what Maverick is. You know.
And they are good, not quite foils of each other because their relationship in the movie is a little different than that. But I think that seeing Glenn Powell's character and seeing the way that he sees himself and his own skills really does make it a good contrast to understand more about who Maverick is.
Right. He's a good foil for Rooster as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Rooster, who's I think he's one of those guys, and I think the movie kind of establishes he's a I think he's probably a natural leader, but he needs to be tested. Like
Mhm.
he's untested. He needs to be put through the paces, which is
Yeah,
basically what this movie's about. Is putting him through those paces. So,
definitely.
what do you think about the relationship between him and Jennifer Connelly's character, who we will not give away? We will not say who she is, just in case there are some old school fans here who don't know anything yet. So we're not going to say anything.
When I
But
found out who she was, I was so happy.
yeah,
I knew immediately, and it made me so excited. I was very excited to see Tom Cruise's on-screen love interest be age appropriate. I will say that. But also Jennifer Connelly is just such a great actress
she's always
and
the natural for this kind of role, though, ain't she? Like it seems like she's always this person, like not like early, not like not this particular character, but I mean like
yeah.
when you want a dignified love interest, beautiful,
She's
and somebody
luminous.
who's
She's so gorgeous in this.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
stunning in
But
this.
she's also funny. She has a life too. I mean, the movie is definitely about Pete Mitchell, Maverick, but it's also, some of these other characters that are not the focus do still you get a sense of who they are
Yeah,
and what their lives are. And that's what I really like about the character that she plays is even without knowing tons of details about her outside of her relationship with him, you get this sense of her being a very well-rounded, kind of sorted out, figured out character.
yeah,
And she does such a great job with that. And the two of them together really are awesome. Like they have some amazing chemistry.
yeah. Have they ever done a movie together before? I was trying to think about that, and I can't think of anything.
Um,
I feel like they would have crossed paths at some point, but I can't honestly think of anything that they've done.
I let me now I'm gonna check. So it's yeah, let me think.
I mean, he's not on Snowpiercer, right? No, I know he's not on Snowpiercer.
He should be on Snowpiercer. No, he shouldn't. He would overshadow everybody.
Yes, he would. He absolutely would. No, but she's just. I expect whenever she's playing the love interest character that she's going to be more than just like arm candy, which is interesting considering I when I first think of Jennifer Connelly, I always think career opportunities. So I mean that's just me. But the role she tends to take characters like this that tend to be a little bit more than just you know the one who's in the gaze of the lead character, and that's it.
Yeah. I didn't think so. I needed to fact check myself before I definitively said no, they've never been in a movie together, but no, they've never been in a movie
Okay, interesting.
together.
Interesting that they're just running into each other now in this movie, but I'm glad they did because they are really fantastic together. So
They really are. They
yeah,
really are. And I like that they're without getting into too much about her specifically or what her life is.
mhm,
I really like the way that they unfold the relationship between the two in a way that makes sense. Once you learn a little bit about their history,
yeah,
um, it makes sense. Like it's paced properly.
yeah, yeah. I agree with that. So from the very beginning, this movie was always going to be about like not a passing of the torch, but Maverick as sort of the old guard, and like now we're into drone warfare. And I was in my review, I was like, we went through that whole phase where like everybody was making movies about drones, in drone warfare, like over and over again. People are making, and I mentioned Stealth earlier. That's also a drone movie, which sucks. Fighter pilots versus a drone
It's so
plane that
bad.
sucks. It's a terrible movie.
It's so horrible.
It's a terrible film. I don't even remember who directed it. It was terrible. I remember Jamie Foxx being in it. It's just,
Yep.
but and then when I read that, I remember thinking, well, this could suck then, because it was in the middle of all those other drone movies that we saw. I was like, this could suck. They really do something nice with this though, and by giving Maverick his, maybe his last ride in the sunset, whatever, but also showing that, you know, human. There's never going to be anything quite like having a human pilot like Maverick, and that you always kind of do what you can when you have a pilot like Maverick. Like
Yeah.
you always want to have them. Like no matter
Yeah.
what, drones will never replace them, and it does that without being super heavy-handed about it, which is what I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't have to be preachy. It can just, it makes its points in a way where like, oh yeah, actually having humans in the situation in the moment to make split-second decisions that computers can't make, or having to rely too much on, you know, satellite communications and things. Like there are some potential inherent problems in that system. But it doesn't have to really beat you over the head. The other thing though too is that I think that um this movie is a pretty uh interesting metaphor. Is that the word I'm looking for? Representation? I don't know. Of Tom Cruise, just to going back to your earlier point about how he's kind of the last movie star. He's the only one that's still committed to making movies like this.
Yeah.
And this movie show like this, the effects in this are not going to degrade.
No.
Movies that are on green screen 5-10 years from now, it's going to look
Yeah.
degraded. It's not going to look as sharp and good as it does now. These, because it's in camera effects and it's practical and a lot of things are actually happening, this is still going to look amazing 30-40 years from now when it's into whatever definition they're at by that point. It's always going to look incredible. And just this idea of Maverick teaching these young kids, look, there's an old way of doing things that still works. It's tried and true for a reason. And it's very similar to Tom Cruise saying there's a tried and true way of making movies and you can still do this and it's still amazing.
Yeah. And you think about the commitment he put into making this movie happen. He said it was 10 years ago when Tony Scott passed away, and like you said, it's another 10 years after he died that the movie is finally coming out. 2 years of delays, and then we went through that whole period where it looked like, my God, is Top Gun Maverick going to come out on streaming or something? And he fought against it. I mean, because that would be fucking awful if this movie were to come out on streaming.
Yeah, well, and it's, to be fair to people who are very passionate about streaming and defense of streaming, I think that is still how a lot of people, probably even most people, will experience this movie. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But I do think this is the kind of movie that if you have the opportunity to see it on a big screen, and especially if you have the opportunity to see it on a giant screen, do that, because this is an experience that you just cannot get in your living room.
Yeah.
You just can't.
No, you can't.
And there is still a stigma attached to movies that go straight to streaming, and it's not fair. It's not justified, because this isn't a world where straight to DVD or whatever is means that it's a bad movie or unworthy. But there are people that have that in their heads, that straight to streaming means that. And and so if this wasn't getting a theatrical release on Memorial Day weekend, where it's probably going to make a bunch of money, I think it would have kind of languished. I don't know how many people would have actually given it time and attention if it was just released straight to Paramount Plus.
Yeah. I just know that I'm now a gigantic Top Gun fan. And look, this is one of those movies that the sequel makes the original better. Like, I want to go back and watch the original again, and that's going to inform my enjoyment of the sequel, which goes back and informs my enjoyment of the previous one. The movies that work in concert like that are the best. to me.
Definitely.
You know, and
Definitely, yeah.
I don't know if they'll ever do another Top Gun movie. If they do, sadly, it'll probably be a remake of some kind. But I am supremely happy with Top Gun Maverick, and I honestly I wasn't super excited about it until people started talking about it, over the last couple of weeks about how good it actually is. And yeah, and like I said, I'm super happy with this movie. I love it.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you liked it. I really thought that you would, but I was still like, the day I knew you were going to be watching it, I was like, I hope you like it. I was trying so hard not to oversell it to people,
Yeah,
because I know how frustrating that can be when everyone's saying like, this movie's amazing, and then you see it and you're like, it's fine.
it's fine.
But this is one that it's like, even if you're not bowled over by the story, you have to be blown away by just the overall look of it,
Oh man,
and
technical
the
stuff.
things that they're able to do.
Yeah, the technical stuff in here is so impressive. And
Mhm.
after talking to Glenn and Tarzan earlier about the movie, the stuff they were telling me, it seems like it was just the craziest production. And like it reminds me of what James Cameron was doing over with Avatar. It's one of those things where you're practically creating new stuff in order to be able to pull this stuff off.
Yeah.
And no one else has been able to duplicate the kind of thing you're doing right now. And it's just, and yeah, couldn't happen to a better movie. It's fantastic. So yeah, I can't wait to see it again. So there you go.
Same.
And I know you're
I'm
probably,
gonna see this probably 5 more times
I
in
was
the
gonna say you're
theater.
probably gonna see it a bunch of times.
Buy it on 4K Ultra the day it comes out.
Oh man, I'm gonna be waiting for those emails from the studio where they're like, request a copy, like at the bottom of the email. I'm like, oh yeah, give me that one. I want that one.
Yeah.
Definitely want
Yeah, definitely. And well, and I
that.
think, it's so funny too, because I think this is a lot of times sequels are really not worthy of it, but I think this is a movie that could easily get, into the awards conversation down the lane too, not just for original song, which I think may happen as far as nominations go, but oh man, Claudio Miranda's cinematography in this is
Cinematography is
just,
amazing.
I can't imagine. I cannot imagine how good the cinematography will have to be in another movie to be better than this.
Yeah.
I really
My
can't.
only worry is that it's a little too early, and then it'll get forgotten. And they're gonna need to re-release it. I hope they re-release it like towards the end of the year or something, so that kind of
Yeah.
put it back in people's minds. Like, hey, don't forget Top Gun Maverick, you
The
guys.
good thing is people don't forget Tom Cruise movies.
You forgot American Made.
I didn't forget American Made.
Well, you're not gonna forget anything that Tom Cruise does. I'm talking about normal people.
Yeah, I am still a little sad about American Made.
I like that movie. That was a good movie.
I did too. It was kind of it was the movie that just kind of got overlooked, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
I mean, there was other big stuff that year, so it's like,
Well, it also seemed fairly ordinary. Like on the outside,
yeah,
if you didn't watch it or anything, it seemed pretty ordinary.
yeah,
It's for a Tom
yeah,
Cruise movie.
yeah.
We're so
I do,
accustomed to Tom Cruise blockbuster guy that seeing
sure.
ordinary films kind of like, really, and you kind of just overlook it. I can see that. I can see people doing that.
Yeah, but I think that this movie surprisingly will remind people that he also can act.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is because he's really good in it, not just like the action stuff, but his performance in this. And I'm not advocating for him to get a Best Actor nomination or anything. I mean, I don't know, maybe we'll see how I feel at the end of the year, but I think this is the movie that's going to make people go, oh yeah, he actually is a really good actor. There's a reason he's been nominated for 3 Academy Awards, and I do think we're inching back to him getting a nomination, like getting into a movie again that gets nominated and him finally winning.
Yeah.
I think it's going to happen in the next few years.
He's gonna have to pull himself away from just making Mission Impossibles and stuff like that though for a while.
But also, he doesn't have to.
He's not gonna get one.
Like, I mean, those movies are freaking awesome too. Oh my
He's not gonna get
gosh.
nominated for a Mission Impossible. So I mean,
No, of course not. No, I know, I know what you're saying. Like,
he's
if
gonna
he
have to
wants
take a
to,
challenge role, like a really challenging film role.
and
Again,
he has it in him if
oh,
he
absolutely.
wants to.
Yeah,
But also, I say hold off on those until you're just physically incapable of doing the Mission Impossible movies.
Right. When he finally passes the reins over to Jeremy Renner 10 years later, then
Oh,
he was
he better
supposed
not pass it to him. He needs to find someone else to do it. I will say, actually, I am not a fan of Miles Teller, but this movie may have changed my mind about him a little bit too.
I liked him in this. I actually like
Mhm.
Glenn Powell better, but
I liked
it's
them
just
both so much. I was really
they're both really
surprised.
good.
I like Glenn Powell. He's a likable guy, but
He
um,
always plays jerk offs.
yeah, and they're both good.
He's really good at it though.
Mhm.
But no, Miles Teller is good in this too. He really is. But yeah, Cruise is fantastic. I think about the stakes for this movie, because if this movie stunk, it would be, oh man, it would be such a disaster if this movie
Yeah.
stunk. Like, it's such a gamble to make this movie, and and then to have it come out and actually really be good, is like
Yeah.
a it's I don't want to call it a weight off my shoulders, but I'm happy that it's good.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because, like, if you look at, I mean, he is capable of making some movies that aren't great, like The Mummy. But it's funny because if you look at The Mummy, people don't really blame him for that one, which is good because it really isn't his fault.
No,
Um, but but and
that
people
movie's also
recognize that.
not nearly as bad as it's been destroyed.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
not
you.
great, but it's not
No, it's not. And
it's
I
not so
honestly
bad
say
it ends a franchise. It's not that bad.
no, there were other reasons that Universal pulled the plug on that. They're just blaming it on the mummy.
Yeah,
But the point is, just what you were saying, like he can afford to have some movies that don't succeed like The Mummy, but Top Gun Maverick had to be great. Otherwise, this would 100% be on his shoulders.
yeah,
Same with anything that comes with the Mission Impossible movies. Everyone knows he's ultimately the one who calls the shots on that. He's not the director, but he's the executive producer and he takes that very, very seriously. And if those movies aren't great, then everyone's going to look to him and blame him for it, as they probably should. Like that's fair. But but
I like
yeah.
that he puts that weight on his shoulders
Mhm.
to be the face for every single movie that he makes. That he puts, like, yeah, if one of his movies fails, we're all going to blame Tom Cruise. Like, we're going to blame him for it because he's the guy who's front and center of everything.
Yeah.
I like that he's willing to take that gamble and take those risks, especially on a movie like this, where, like I said, if it did badly, it's going to really stink up the joint.
Yeah.
It's going to really hurt if this movie sucks, because a lot of people hold that original movie with such reverence. People love that movie. It was a cultural touchstone for a lot of people. I think this one has the potential to be that for new people, if they go and see it. But which I think they will. I think people are going to go out and see this one in droves. So I
Yeah.
know a lot of people, and they tend to be my age, if I'm honest, are super pumped for this.
Yep. I mean, neither of my parents has been to a movie in a while, and both of them are very excited to go see this.
Yeah, yeah. This
And
one's
I think it's our age and older. I think a lot of people's moms and dads are going to be at the theater this weekend.
I know. This will
Mhm.
be the movie to knock Doctor Strange out of number one finally.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If it doesn't, I will die of shock. I
Yeah,
won't even know what to think.
yeah. It'd be insane if it doesn't, but I think it will. All right, Top Gun Maverick. You've heard my thoughts. You've heard Karen Peterson's thoughts. Karen, tell everybody where they can find you every day.
I am on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Karen M. Peterson, and I link all my work to my other podcasts and websites and freelance work and all kinds of stuff, all those
You've been
places.
doing some stuff variety, which has been great. People should go and seek that out as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I'm Travis Hobson. You can find me every day at punchdrunkcritics.com. You can find me on Twitter at Punchy Critic. You can find Punch Drunk Critics there at PDC Movies. You can also find me on Instagram and wherever else. If you're here in DC, you can find me on WETA around town, as well as some other places. I'm everywhere. All right, everybody. Thanks again for watching Cinema Royale. This has been our chat about Top Gun Maverick. That comes out this weekend, May 27th. So enjoy. I will see you next time. Bye. Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.